The Baltimore Ravens walked into Week 3 carrying momentum, swagger, and a defense that had been labeled the toughest in the league against the run. But by the time the final whistle blew against the Detroit Lions, all that reputation had been left shattered on the field. The scoreboard told a harsh story, a 38-30 defeat that went far beyond just a single loss in the standings. What unfolded was a night that exposed weaknesses, raised uncomfortable questions, and left fans wondering how this team, built on toughness and discipline, could look so overwhelmed. The Lions didn't just win, they outmuscled Baltimore at its own game. This wasn't about self-inflicted mistakes or turnovers gifting opportunities. No, this was a straight-up case of Detroit lining up, running the ball down Baltimore's throat, and daring them to stop it. And the Ravens couldn't. The numbers are staggering. 225 rushing yards against a defense that last season didn't give up 150 yards on the ground in a single contest, playoffs included. For a team that prided itself on physicality, on stonewalling the run, on breaking opponents' will, Monday night felt like a complete role reversal. It was the Lions who looked like the bullies on the field. David Montgomery set the tone early and never let up, pounding away for a career-high 151 yards with 2 touchdowns. The guy has been consistent throughout his career, topping 1,000 yards in multiple seasons and always producing. But this performance was something else entirely. Add in Jahmyr Gibbs, who slashed through for 67 yards and 2 more scores, and suddenly the Ravens' defensive front looked unrecognizable. This wasn't one missed assignment or one guy out of place. This was collective failure, from the line to the linebackers to the safeties. It was the kind of night where the entire unit had to wear the blame. Afterward, head coach John Harbaugh didn't sugarcoat anything. He didn't point fingers at individual players. He didn't make excuses about schemes or matchups. His words were blunt and heavy. He admitted the run defense as a whole simply wasn't good enough, stressing that what fans saw on that field cannot and will not define who this team is supposed to be. The disappointment was written all over his face, because Baltimore's identity has always been tied to defense. To have that identity ripped apart on national television hit deeper than just a single mark in the loss column. And it wasn't just the head coach voicing frustration. Safety Kyle Hamilton, one of the young stars on this defense, spoke honestly about how demoralizing it felt. He admitted that when an opponent can impose their will like that, running again and again without resistance, it cuts deeper than giving up big plays through the air. Because the run game is about heart, toughness, and desire, and when another team dominates you there, it feels like a direct challenge to your pride. He talked about the mental toll, about the defense needing to put that fire out quickly, and the painful reality that they simply didn't. Yes, Montgomery and Gibbs might be the most dynamic 1-2 punch in football right now, but even that can't fully explain what happened. The Ravens were not just beaten, they were overrun. And what makes it sting more is how out of character it looked. For years, Baltimore's defense has been a benchmark for toughness. They bend, but rarely break. Against Detroit, they broke again and again. Long drives, missed tackles, no answers at the line of scrimmage. It was a blueprint for disaster. The statistics back up just how ugly it got. The Ravens allowed over 400 yards of offense, pushing their season average for yards allowed per game above 411, the worst mark in the entire league at this point in the season. 20 missed tackles only piled on the embarrassment, and giving up touchdown drives of 96 and 98 yards painted a brutal picture of a defense that simply could not get off the field when it mattered. That isn't Ravens football, and the locker room knows it. But knowing it and fixing it are two very different challenges. The timing couldn't be worse either, because the next stop on the schedule is Arrowhead Stadium against the Kansas City Chiefs. History hasn't been kind to Baltimore in that building. Since 2008, the Ravens have allowed an average of 29 points per game at Arrowhead. Against Patrick Mahomes specifically, the numbers are even more daunting. Lamar Jackson has only one win in 5 tries against Mahomes, and the Ravens as a franchise sit at 4 wins and 8 losses in head-to-head matchups with Kansas City. The last time Baltimore won on the road against the Chiefs? That was back in 2012, in a low-scoring slugfest before either Lamar or Mahomes was even in the picture. Since then, Arrowhead has been nothing but heartbreak. So here stands Lamar Jackson, carrying not just the weight of one loss, but the weight of history. He knows the odds, he knows the record, but he also knows the opportunity. This is his chance to flip the script, to walk into one of the loudest, toughest environments in football and change the narrative that has followed him in this franchise for over a decade. But the task in front of him couldn't be more difficult, because the Chiefs, even at 1 win and 2 losses, are still the Chiefs. They just rolled through the New York Giants. They're still led by Mahomes, and they're still nearly unbeatable at Arrowhead with a 77% winning clip since 2021. Baltimore isn't just playing against Kansas City. They're playing against ghosts, against a building, against history. And while Lamar will get most of the spotlight, it's not just about him. He can't erase missed tackles, he can't force defensive stops, and he can't hold onto the football for his running backs. That last part especially matters after Derrick Henry's costly mistake. Late in the fourth quarter, with the Ravens trailing by just 4 points and driving for a chance to reclaim momentum, Henry had the ball punched out from behind by Aiden Hutchinson deep in Baltimore territory. The Lions turned that gift into points, widening the gap and effectively sealing the outcome. For Henry, it was his 3rd fumble in just 3 games this season, his 2nd in the fourth quarter, and it's a problem that's becoming impossible to ignore. What makes it more concerning is Henry's history. In his previous 9 seasons, across 136 games, he had only lost 2 fourth-quarter fumbles. That's the kind of reliability you expect from a veteran, a cornerstone of your offense. Now, in a Ravens uniform, it feels like the ball security issues are snowballing at the worst possible time. Henry himself acknowledged the frustration, admitting he's his own toughest critic and that he's working every day to fix it. But apologies and intentions won't change the scoreboard. Baltimore needs the version of Henry who bulldozes defenders, not the one coughing up the ball in critical moments. All of this adds up to a daunting scenario. A Ravens team sitting at 1 win and 3 losses, fresh off a humiliating showing against Detroit, now walking into the Lions' den that is Arrowhead. The defense has to rediscover its identity. The offense has to cut out costly mistakes, and Lamar Jackson has to play like the superstar he is if they want to rewrite history. Heading into Arrowhead, the Ravens' challenges extend far beyond the scoreboard. It's about reputation, about proving that the loss to the Lions was a fluke rather than a sign of regression. Lamar Jackson knows this, and he also knows that leading his team into one of the most hostile stadiums in football requires more than just talent. It demands mental toughness, preparation, and the ability to elevate everyone around him. The Chiefs don't just test skill, they test heart. Every snap, every defensive read, every decision has the potential to either make or break momentum, and the Ravens are walking into a storm. Kansas City's home field advantage is legendary, and for decades, it has been a nightmare for Baltimore. The crowd, the noise, the speed of the game, all of it conspires against visiting teams. But Lamar's focus isn't on the obstacles. It's on the opportunity to change the narrative, to prove that the Ravens can compete with the elite when the stakes are highest. The offensive line, in particular, has to step up. Against Detroit, they allowed penetration that disrupted running plays and collapsed the pocket before Jackson could even set his feet. Without consistent protection, Lamar's ability to make plays, both with his legs and his arm, will be severely limited. The Chiefs' defensive front, led by a mix of speed rushers and power players, will try to exploit any misstep, and Baltimore cannot afford the mental lapses that cost them against the Lions. Every missed assignment will be magnified in Arrowhead, and the Ravens have to approach each play like a chess match, anticipating the blitz, reading coverages, and reacting instinctively. Lamar's leadership will be crucial, but the entire team must mirror that intensity if they hope to walk out with a victory. Then there's the running game, and Derrick Henry's role cannot be understated. His fumbles against Detroit were more than mistakes. They were momentum killers. The Ravens cannot repeat that pattern against Kansas City. Henry's physicality is one of the team's greatest weapons, and he must channel his aggression into consistency rather than turnovers. Each carry, each block, each yard matters when facing a team as relentless as the Chiefs. And it's not just Henry. Every offensive skill player has to execute with precision. The timing of routes, the pace of the offense, the decision-making under pressure, all of it will be tested. Lamar Jackson cannot carry the burden alone. Success depends on cohesion, discipline, and a refusal to let prior failures define this moment. Defensively, the Ravens face a monumental task. The Chiefs are not just a high-powered offense. They are a machine built on rhythm, timing, and elite playmaking. Patrick Mahomes has an uncanny ability to read defenses and adjust on the fly, making even the most meticulously designed schemes feel inadequate. For Baltimore, containing him means eliminating easy throws, maintaining gap integrity, and avoiding mental lapses that allow big plays. The Ravens cannot afford to give up explosive plays, because every time Mahomes finds space, the game tilts further in Kansas City's favor. That's why the lessons from Detroit are critical. Allowing 225 rushing yards to Montgomery and Gibbs exposed vulnerabilities that the Chiefs will exploit with a combination of runs, misdirection, and creative play calling. The Ravens' front seven has to be disciplined, physical, and relentless, or else Arrowhead will become a place of frustration and missed opportunities. Special teams, often overlooked, also have a heightened importance. A single misstep on a punt or kickoff can shift momentum dramatically in a stadium like Arrowhead. Baltimore cannot allow field position mistakes or costly penalties to compound the challenges already posed by Kansas City's offense. Every aspect of execution matters, and the Ravens must approach each play with the intensity of a playoff game. There's no room for lapses, no room for mental errors, and certainly no room for the kind of defensive softness that allowed Detroit to run at will. It's a total team effort where each player's focus, discipline, and preparation will determine whether the Ravens make history or repeat past disappointments. Mentally, the challenge is even more profound. Arrowhead is not just a stadium, it's a test of character. The crowd, nearly deafening, forces quarterbacks and defenders alike into a hyper-focused state. Communication is difficult, adjustments are slower, and mistakes are magnified. Lamar Jackson, as the leader, must maintain composure while ensuring his teammates are in the right mindset. Any hint of doubt, hesitation, or frustration could snowball into disaster. But Jackson is known for his resilience, his ability to elevate his teammates, and his capacity to make split-second decisions that change the course of a game. He cannot, however, do it alone. The Ravens' culture of accountability, toughness, and teamwork will be tested like never before, and the only way to succeed is through collective focus and execution. Arrowhead also presents a history lesson that the Ravens cannot ignore. Since 2008, they have struggled to contain points, giving up nearly 30 on average per game. When facing Mahomes and the Chiefs, they have consistently fallen short, with the last victory there coming more than a decade ago. For Jackson, the statistics are sobering: a 1-4 record against Mahomes and a franchise record of 4-8 against the Chiefs. These numbers could easily intimidate, but Jackson treats them differently. They are not excuses, they are motivation. They are proof of the challenge, not an argument against trying. Every play, every snap, every drive is an opportunity to rewrite history, and the Ravens' preparation and execution must reflect that mindset. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support keeps us bringing you the latest news on the Baltimore Ravens. And hey, drop your take in the comments below. We want to hear from the flock. A storm may be brewing in the AFC, and it seems to have started with none other than Chiefs head coach Andy Reid. Sources close to the team say Reid didn't hold back in recent comments, taking a not-so-subtle swipe at the Baltimore Ravens, sparking a frenzy among fans and analysts alike. While the exact words weren't broadcasted widely, insiders claimed the tone was dismissive, almost mocking, suggesting that Reid sees the Ravens as an overrated team heading into the season. The timing couldn't be more intriguing. The Chiefs and Ravens have long been considered serious contenders, each boasting high-powered offenses and defenses that can turn the tide in a single play. Reid's comments, however, seem to hint at a psychological strategy, planting seeds of doubt in the Ravens' locker room while rallying his own squad. Some players reportedly found the remarks motivating, while others expressed concern that Reid's public criticism could backfire, giving the Ravens extra fire to fuel a potential upset. Fans on social media have already latched onto the story, with Chiefs supporters reveling in the drama and Ravens fans firing back with their own sharp takes. Pundits are speculating that this could reignite one of the AFC's most electric rivalries, reminiscent of past seasons where trash talk and intense matchups went hand in hand. Some analysts even suggest that Reid's comments might be more than just talk. They could be a subtle play to psych out Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson, who thrives under pressure but is known to respond to slights with standout performances. Inside the league, chatter has been constant. While REID has a reputation for being calm and composed, insiders say there's an edge to his latest remarks that's unusually pointed. The Ravens, of course, have yet to respond officially, but whispers suggest that head coach John Harbaugh is already preparing a response, not necessarily with words, but with his team's performance on the field. The upcoming matchup between these two powerhouses is now under an even brighter spotlight, with every play potentially carrying the weight of REID's words. Whether it's a calculated psychological ploy or genuine disdain, one thing is certain: the AFC just got a lot more interesting. Rivalries thrive on drama, and Andy Reid's pointed comments about the Ravens have injected a new layer of tension that fans won't soon forget. As training camps progress and the season inches closer, everyone will be watching to see if the Chiefs coach was right to cast shade, or if the Ravens will respond in kind, turning the whispers into roars. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay in the loop with exclusive news on our Baltimore Ravens, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what the flock thinks. Drop your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next one.